transcripts when we get going. We'll remind everybody that we will be recording.
Yeah.
And we'll go from there. Well, I'll just wait till everybody else shows up.
Because we're pretty much waiting for everybody.
Kaya was mentioning that she was really having problems with her Wi-Fi modem. I didn't see that until this afternoon, so okay. She may not be able to attend. And I mentioned we were going to move to like a different platform, and I think if we do that next week, we should have that ready, and it will be a program called a Microsoft Teams.
Okay.
All right, you let Chris in.
Yeah, I'm here. I just can't get my video going.
Hi, Chris.
Hi.
Chris.
Hi.
We are recording as we speak, so just FYI. Chris, I am going to make you a co-host as well, so that you guys can, if people are, I assume we're going to have other gardeners that are showing up tonight just to maybe make some comments and stuff like that. So you will need to keep an eye on making sure people are muting themselves, unmuting themselves. If there's any notice in the chat that needs to be talked. At 6:30, when we get it called to order, I'm going to be typing the closed captions, and we'll struggle. We'll stay up on top of that as much as I possibly can. I did ask if we could use a live transcription service, but it requires a purchase and putting that on here, and hadn't gotten approval before we got started. But I think that if anything, we'll take the recording and go through it tomorrow, because we're apparently teleworking all day tomorrow, and we'll then have a really good transcription because I'll have plenty of time.
Sounds good. Hi, Tim and Ishara.
You guys are muted.
Hi.
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 Good evening. We might get a good crowd here.
I want to do it different.
Right.
Valerie.
Hello, Mr. Stan Shayer.
Actually, it's Jeffrey Romano.
Okay, AKA Jeffrey Romano.
And yes, I'm incognito tonight. I never can fix this on the Zoom.
You can go, if you really care about it, you can hover over your name and it should read rename at some point.
Okay, let me try that.
I think that's what you can.
Oh, here we go.
You got
it? Perfect. Perfect. Thank you.
Have fun. So you
Look
could be Jesse James.
Learning something new on a garden Zoom.
This is what community gardening's about. Showing each other.
Okay, we gotta wait a little bit.
So here we are, the night before the real new year. Hey, Kristen.
Hi. I finally got my video up.
Good job, Kristen.
It has to do that I have 2 monitors hooked up to my laptop, so I have to click off my monitors in order to get the video to work.
Huh.
So we're officially not starting the meeting until we have a quorum of 6 advisory committee members.
Here comes Andy.
Comes Andy.
One more. Can I just ask you a question about Main Street, Teague? It's not really, they're doing construction, like jackhammering. Do you know anything about the what they're doing, how long it's going to try to garden today. And it was just really loud.
And
what
they're
time are you
doing
there?
jackhammering where?
11.
It was really loud. I heard it too, and I just couldn't. I wasn't going to stay long anyway.
Yeah.
Today, but I really wasn't there for very long because we're like.
Yeah, it was really loud.
So I was there by 1:30 and there was no jackhammering.
Oh, maybe they're done then.
What are they working in the streets?
Yeah, it was like the sidewalk where that parking lot is it Hollister? I always get Hollister and Strand confused.
Hollister.
Hollister, closer to my side.
So they're taking out the sidewalk? Is that what?
It was like along the sidewalk, like by the parking lot, like where that trash is. Anyway, it's like, ugh.
I don't know. There seems to be streets torn up all over the place right now.
Yeah.
They're putting a lot of curb extensions in around schools. So many of the schools have the corners around them ripped up because they're putting in some of those. So, but no, I don't know what's going on down there.
Okay, just curious.
Okay, I'm going to go ahead and start typing here in just a second. For those of you that are on here, we are recording this. So we will have it accessible via a link at some point in the near future, as well as a transcription. I am going to start to type. So I will be typing for closed captioning. So I'm going to ask as we speak to make sure that we take turns or go slow. And if I ask you to slow down and wait a minute, let me get caught up. If you would like to access the closed captioning, Talia, do you want to explain how to do that?
Well, there should be at the bottom something that says closed captioning. And you just click on that. I'm not seeing it right now because
I see it on mine.
And it will ask you to show subtitles, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah, just read closed caption.
So yeah. So if you can find that, you can just click on it and it'll show you the subtitles as Teague is typing them.
I'm in a gallery view and it's on the ribbon line on the bottom. But I wonder if that's for everybody or just the hosts.
No, it should be, everybody will have access to showing it on there. And then in there, you can also view the entire transcript, and that will move it kind of into the chat room, and that allows you to kind of move it up and down.
Yeah.
So I'm really surprised that Zoom doesn't have it just kind of linked in as most of the others are at this point. But we will be moving to a program that does. So.
Okay.
We don't have a quorum yet.
You see, we have Nat's here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Oh, I forgot. Tim's not one of us. I forgot. I mean, you are one of us, Tim. I apologize. You just changed your status.
Yeah, that threw me for a second too.
Yeah, yeah. So, it's good to see so many people here. Thank you, everyone, for coming
Happy New Year.
Yeah, almost Happy New Year. I'm counting tomorrow at noon.
Oh, that's right. That's a happy millennium. That's more than a year.
So we're still waiting for Susan, right?
You know, I almost forgot. So I wonder if she needs a nudge. I almost forgot our meeting. I was talking to Randy and then I remembered. So I wonder if she just needs a quick. Or she also had that challenge with the iPad. So you want me to text her?
I got it pulled up.
Okay, got it. Thanks. Nice to see some new faces. Todd, it's good to have you here. And we'll do introductions in the beginning real quick so everybody knows who everybody is.
Good to see everybody again. I have a Zoom at 7 for my daughter's school. So I'm going to be zooming off in 25 minutes, but I wanted to spend the time I had with you.
That's wonderful.
Good to see you. Yeah, I texted her.
Yeah, she just asked if there was a Zoom link. So
okay, it's in the agenda. That's where it was tricky for me.
Okay. Oh, I lost my screen. Let me see if I can.
We see you, Talia.
Trying it. I can't copy and paste my.
What are you trying to do? Trying to give her the link?
I'm trying to copy the link from the agenda, but it's.
Yeah, let's see if I can get it.
Download it. Hold on. I just printed it from Gmail.
I just emailed it to her as well. So
thanks.
I appreciate everyone joining us on a short notice here. While we wait, I will give.
She should be in. I just submitted her.
Yeah.
Hi, Chris. It's Margaret. I'm the initials MS.
I was going to say Marlene Suzuki. Or
I need to change that.
Sounds
sorry.
Like. Hi, Susan.
There we go.
Okay. So let's get started.
Okay.
First and foremost, I am typing as we go for anyone who wants closed captioning. Please be kind and speak slowly for me. If I ask you to stop so I can catch up, that would be great. So there were the Garden Advisory Committee was suspended until recently.
We officially call this at 6:38. So we have a quorum. So we'll officially call it to order. And then go ahead, Pete.
Purpose of this meeting is twofold. One is to get us started again. The City Council has agreed that commissions and boards, committees can start meeting on a quarterly basis. So we should set those up and prepare to move forward with those. The other thing is that we had a kind of, well, almost 12 months of, with the suspension that we weren't having any elections, and we were due, the Garden Advisory Committee was due for some elections. And so the discussion on how you'd like to handle that would be fantastic. First, but mostly, the city has initiated a fee study citywide to look at cost recovery for various programs, permits, and all those other things. And it includes community gardens, taking a look at all of the costs associated with it. And they have expressed that they think that the community garden fees should be raised. This meeting is to initiate a discussion because it's against the Brown Act for us to have conversations with too many people at one time about that, without making it a formal meeting, to revisit the support that the Garden Advisory Committee voted on back in February of 2019. So I sent out the meeting minutes from then. You all should have received a copy of that, which talks about what you all agreed to. I thought that it was probably prudent that we have a discussion about that again, knowing that that was before COVID and that sentiments may have changed. So Talia, I'm going to just pass it over to you and let you run with it.
Yeah, okay. So on the agenda, we have the discussion on meetings. So I guess we'll start there. Does anybody have any thoughts or feedback? I know what I've been thinking about. Does anyone think we should have elections soon or get back on to more of the fiscal year cycle like we had before? Does anybody have any thoughts before I tell you what I'm thinking?
I'll start. I think it is easiest to get back on the regular meeting cycle. Although we'll be meeting quarterly, it would be kind of easy to situate ourselves with this special meeting and then maybe one, if not two of the others, and the second one being our election one in May. Because I think there's enough confusion anyway. Then I think the trickiest thing would be all of us are basically up because there were those of us who would be up in June 2021, those of us who were up last year and we never had an election. Or we could, decide, do we extend the June 2021 people a year? Anyway, but I suggest we try to do it on the fiscal year calendar we're already on.
Can I just ask you, Teague, so this is a special meeting. Do they consider that, would the city consider it our meeting for this quarter, or would we be able to set up a regular meeting? Do you know?
I would, because the only thing, I don't know for certain, but this meeting was scheduled specifically to talk about resetting the timeline and talk about elections and only about the fee increase. So it is not a regularly scheduled meeting. Okay. So therefore it would be outside of the purview of your regular quarter meetings.
Right. Okay, well, I was looking at all the dates coming up. What if we planned on a regular meeting in March? And then another one in May, and then have elections in June, with July maybe being the first meeting of the new half board. And to Chris's point of keeping the people in that would have already been in 2021 and just doing the half that have kind of been out of session, haven't been technically on the board because the terms expired. And then maybe following that, hopefully by then things will be back to normal a little bit more towards the end of 2021, but maybe doing an October meeting, July and then October. So that was just my ideas. And then that would mean we would also avoid Rosh Hashanah in September and Election Day in November. That's just a suggestion. So if anybody has any ideas, I'm open.
Andy Lieberman, any thoughts?
No, that sounds good. That plan by Talia sounds good.
I like that too. Thank you, Talia, for working that all out. I think that's the way to go.
I agree with it also.
And I always figure that, you know, at some point we would probably have to adjust, but just to going forward, that it might be kind of a good way to start.
So people, we had on the attachments, the board roster.
Mm-hmm.
So if you didn't have a chance to look at that, you'll see whose time was up. And, you know, when you have a chance to check that out. We have 2 vacancies also. So we'd have to recruit for those spots as well. So all these wonderful faces who are on here, perhaps you might consider, you know, being one of the community garden reps, particularly as we're not going to be meeting every month or every other month, rather. It'll be a little easier. But in any case, I do think that'll be helpful to look at that board, because then you'll know if you were up. So what you're saying is that everybody's whose term was up last June 2020, will now run, and we'll extend the June 2021
yes.
terms to June 2022.
Yes, that's what I was thinking.
So we can make that, can we make that into one motion, Teague? Do you need to make 2 motions? One for the terms and one for the schedule of the meetings?
I think that you can, I would say, I would make it 2 motions. I would say, well, first I would like to hear from, I think Nat, I'd like to hear from Nat chiming in, because he would be one that would be extended through the next year.
Mm-hmm.
Nat?
Keep me on board.
Okay. So that being, okay. So I think, Chris, your question was, do we need 1 or 2 motions? I would think you probably might as well just do 2 motions. Make one for making those meetings regular. So you'll have, I think you said you'd have the one in March, aim for one in May, have another one in July, and then October. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's, yeah.
And so those would be your quarterly meetings, at least for the next calendar year. And that you would then need to make a motion that you will, the people whose terms had expired last June, those seats will be up for re-election. Anybody who was to expire this June will have theirs extended for 1 more year. Is that what I'm understanding?
Yes.
Okay. Well, let's see if you can get those motions proper.
Does anybody want to make a motion? Somebody want me to make it?
You make the first one, I'll make the second.
Okay, so hold on. Okay, so the first motion would be to extend the term limits for advisory committee members to July of 2021, with the first group of members that are expiring to reapply. Is that the right word? Be
re-elected, re-nominated.
Be re-elected. Thanks, Chris. And the other group to run through 2021 fiscal year.
Okay.
21-22 fiscal year.
Okay.
Yeah, we could establish the elections in June for the class of 2020. The terms ending.
Hang on. So Talia's making a motion, right? There needs to be a second, and then there can be some more discussion about it. Okay.
I second the motion.
Okay, thanks.
Is there any discussion?
No. All in favor?
Well, before, I guess the only discussion I have, yeah, go ahead, Kristen, sorry.
No, that's just.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask a question. Given the funny situation we're in, we got to go out of our way to recruit, because we have 2 vacancies and we held those for a while. And while there's not a lot of things that have recently been on our plate because of COVID, for all of us who've been at the last two get-togethers, we've had some really good discussions, and being part of the OSC, Office of Sustainability, a lot more can be moving. So I'm inclined to just encourage us to recruit for those vacancies.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay.
And just to mention, the vacancies we have are at Park Drive and Main Street. So,
yeah.
Okay, so all in favor?
Aye.
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 It's everyone, right?
Yeah, that was unanimous.
Yeah. Okay. So that.
Folks, can I ask a question on the board openings? I'm currently a waitlist gardener, so I don't have a spot yet, but are waitlist folks eligible to apply for the board?
We had discussed that, not currently, but we had been talking about maybe having more people who are interested in being part of the community gardens. We hadn't formally had any discussions on it, but we had kind of bounced the idea around a little bit.
There's no reason in my mind that we couldn't agendize that at our next meeting.
March,
and have a really nice discussion, because that's, yeah, we were thinking about, you know, how to open up the opportunities in a smarter way.
Yeah, that would be great. Thank you.
So T, did you get that for our next agenda?
Well, I'm going to watch this probably 3 or 4 times. So I'm
okay,
sure,
me too. Yeah, you're right.
It'll stick there.
Did you get that? Okay. Okay,
if I can just add, Jeffrey, that was a discussion, and that's been something that I think we would like to address, because currently, as one of the things that comes down often is like, well, of course the gardeners are going to vote for X, Y, or Z because it's only made up of current gardeners. So expanding outside of that has been something that has been discussed amongst many of us for a long time. So.
And we also mentioned that, you know, that would enable us to orient people on the wait list, to, you know, bring people in a different way, blah, blah, blah. But we can talk more about that at the next meeting. That's a great agenda item.
Great, thank you.
And it'll be soon, yeah, it'll be before the elections.
Thank you.
Okay, so the second motion is to just establish the timeline. Just everybody agreed that schedule of meetings, that we would follow this meeting with a March meeting, first Tuesday in March, and a May meeting, first Tuesday in May, and with elections in June.
Yes.
And then a subsequent first meeting at the new fiscal year in July, followed by the second quarterly meeting in October. Always on the first Tuesday at 6:30. And given the Zoom situation, we probably won't have an issue with that. Okay, so that's my motion.
I second it.
Discussion? Okay.
Thank you, Kristen. Any discussion?
I don't think so. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay.
Okay, I think that's unanimous too.
Yep. Okay.
Excellent.
Great. That was easy. Okay. Now the tough item. Okay, so back in, this was the February 5th meeting in 2019. We had discussed increasing the garden fees really to have some equity between the different gardens. A lot of the Main Street gardens are quite large compared to a lot at Park Drive. I mean, most of this board was there and we probably remember. You want to look at that agenda. It's on
the minutes from.
Yeah, sorry, the minutes, yes. From February 5th.
And sorry.
We had agreed on a 3-tier system, or a tiered fee system over 3 years. The first year, So I'll just read it. Chris G suggested the first year medium-sized plots be raised to 125 and the larger plots to 150. The second year, a medium plot be raised to 150 and the large to 175. And the third year, the medium-sized plot would be 175 and the large 200. Small plots will remain at 100 and fees will be looked at again after the 3 years to reevaluate the price of the small plots for the small plots to be raised. We also did a second motion for a financial assistance program to be included with the fee raises. That also passed unanimously. So just for a reminder, but Teague, I think are we back to square one with discussing this? Or are we starting, just a starting point? Do you know what the city is kind of expecting fees to be raised to? Do they give you any indication?
Okay, got it. The city initiated as you all know, has a severe reduction in revenue. Mm-hmm. We all know the reason. Still not taking fees on buses, parking meters, all of that stuff really is just been dropped. The city cut staff by close to 35%. And when we say 30 to 35%, that's excluding the Santa Monica Police Department and the Santa Monica Fire Department. So two of our larger departments received none of that. So there were major cuts kind of across the board, which helped, to kind of bring things down. So in going back and looking at cost recovery, the typical cost recovery for the gardens has been based off of salaries of staff only. They don't include water use, they don't include maintenance, they don't include any of that stuff. And so the typical range for cost recovery for the gardens has been around the 10, really from as low as 8% recovery of our costs, upwards of 15% recovery back in like 2004, 2005, which was when they only had really one garden going on. And so the idea really from the city for this new fee study was to look at all of them. So permits, building permits, street permits, construction permits, Big Blue Bus costs, fees for crests, fees for adult classes, anything where residents may be paying a fee for is being looked at. Included in that was the gardens. Last I heard from the consultant, it is an outside consultant looking at things, is that they were recommending an increase up to $200 for garden permits. That's kind of where they stand now. That doesn't take into account differing sizes. And so I was brought into the conversation in February to kind of provide some information about where we stood before and all of these other things, and brought up the 2009 meeting where it was discussed that there could be some increases in fees, as well as a tier-based system. Mm-hmm. And so, we called this meeting really because I didn't think that it was good for us to rely on that decision back in 2019 and just throw that in and be like, nah, they already agreed to it. That just didn't seem right. And so I think the discussion should be about what was agreed back then. We all know what was agreed. It was agreed that those kind of tier-based systems would be there. And I think that the discussion should be about, is that still where you want to go in that kind of time frame?
Have they,
or do you want to go a different direction?
Have they given you a time frame? Like, will this be for July 2021?
It would be for this, yes, it would be taking effect in July. That's correct.
Okay.
Well, they're expecting some increase this July, even if we change the periodic increases that we have, right? Help us know what are the parameters of our possibilities here?
Well, I think everything you guys can. Well, this is your group. Let me just state that, right? They are expecting I'm expecting feedback from you so that we can share that with, you know, my supervisors and those others. The consultant has suggested that fees go up to $200. They're not saying that should happen July 1. They are saying that it should be a gradual stepped increase. But they're saying that it should cap out at that point at some point, knowing what salaries and those types of things currently are.
And just for everyone's a little bit more complete picture. So when the whole consternation over the budget was underway last April and May, and there were city council meetings, the garden issues did come up, not very much, but it came up in the context of this whole issue of different programs raising fees. And I actually did acknowledge that we had already, in my testimony, I acknowledged that the gardeners had already conceded that we needed to, you know, raise fees and that we had agreed to it. I didn't make any statement of the amounts, but that's on record. So you know that, just so everything's transparent here.
So potentially, if we wanted to keep the smaller plots paying less, we might be looking at the bigger plots being over $200. I mean, do the consultants know the varying size of the garden plots? I mean,
they do.
Does it matter?
They do.
Does it? Does it matter to them?
So the notes in there said that. So that's been my suggestion the whole time, is that there just be some breakdown of small, medium, large. It just seems completely unfair that somebody has a 100 square foot garden plot and they pay the exact same as someone who has a 500 square garden plot. And you know, I know that people are like, well, that's just what they got. Well, then if that's the way we're going to have an attitude, then everyone's name will go into a pot in June and we'll draw names and you'll get a new garden plot. So maybe you'll have a small one, maybe you'll have a large one. That's not actually fair either. Fairness is equitable paying. Mm-hmm. And, you know, everybody would say, well, I'd like to have a larger one, but it's not feasible at this time. I just think it is really inconsistent of us to charge the same amount for a large varying space. And I think that's kind of what the discussion really was around. Do the consultants, my opinion, and granted it's only my opinion, would be that when we addressed you guys 2 years ago, that we would raise the large fees up to kind of around 150. You all took it all the way up to 200, which was surprising to us at the time. The consultants are consultants, right? They know what is charged for what it is right now. And there is no tier-based fee. So they're basing it off of all the one fee right now. And based off of that, they're suggesting that all fees be raised to $200 with a note on the side that there's some suggestion for a tier-based system based off of the size, right? So whatever you all decide, I think will kind of help city council make the appropriate decision on how best to determine what fees should look like.
Okay.
Was that vague enough for you?
No, I mean, that answers my question. Yeah, I mean, it's typical. They don't fully understand. They just look at the numbers.
Well, I mean, they're looking at every single program across the city of Santa Monica. I mean, they don't know the history and the background and all of the other things, right? And they're having conversations with staff. I can assure you they're not going and asking Big Blue bus riders what they think about the fees right now. So, you know, you all are in a position where, you know, I think that I reached out to city manager's office and just expressed that we really needed to reconvene this group in order to kind of revisit this conversation. It has been, when I put that out there to the entire group of gardeners, there were many who felt that it was my directive to all of a sudden double the fees, and that is not really the intention. I was hoping that we could have a conversation to better give the consultants and city council and Shannon Perry and James Velez Conway a better idea about where we need to go. When I was with CCS, I was not very much asked my opinion or given the authority to make decisions. And now it's kind of turned the opposite, is that they're kind of leaving their hands off and want us to come and make other decisions about what's best for us. So I can't do that alone. Wouldn't want to do that alone. I would never expect anybody to do that to me alone. So what I can say is that up at Ocean View Farms, where I have a garden, for the past 3 years, the fees have steadily increased. And next year, I believe, will actually be over $100 for a plot fee up there. Those plot sizes are about the size of the medium-sized gardens at Main Street. So they're in the 200, 250 square foot range. Nat, does that sound about right?
Yeah, I think you have a little bit bigger one than I have, but that's neither here nor there, But that's about right.
Well, I think we, in February, a little bit in January, and then a long discussion in February, we really established the two issues. One, the equity required a tiered effort, and it sounded like 10 by 10 would forever be the smallest we'd ever have. And going down the road, as we increase gardens in a year or two, et cetera, that sort of establishes a nice baseline, to start with the 100, because that's where we already are. And for people who weren't there, we did discuss reducing those, and we said, now we'll stay at the 100 because that's where we are. We didn't want to go backwards. So I think we really vetted a lot of good issues. I mean, the only big difference I can see right now is just the stresses of COVID on anyone's pocketbook, and whether we want to go the 3 year, move it down along 3 years. But I still think for anybody who's stressed out financially, and that's not a judgment, that's just a challenge, we can come up with a way to subsidize that, even if it's through our New Friends program, even if the city doesn't for a while can't do something, we could figure out a way to help people out. But I do think we should have those at least 3 sizes. And frankly, down the road, Main Street's the only one that has big plots.
Yeah.
So the upper reach of the cost is only going to hit Main Street. And then, so I think what we recommended makes sense, that we advance it to 125, I think, for this next June for the medium.
Mm-hmm.
Correct, Talia?
Yeah.
And the big plots would be at 150.
Right. And that's, if you look at Teague's chart, the large plots, there's 59, they're 250 square feet and up. 49 of them at Main Street, 10 at Park Drive. Teague, did you do this spreadsheet, or is this from the consultants?
That's my spreadsheet.
Okay. That's good.
Do you all want to see the spreadsheet that she's talking about, if you didn't see it?
I saw it. You posted it.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Or you linked it.
Yeah.
I think it makes sense to me, the pricing as it's been tiered, and to increase them each year. Would that satisfy the committee? If we go ahead and do the $100 for a small plot, $125 for medium, and $150, does that satisfy everybody?
I agree with Chris, and I think we had a well thought out
Yeah.
plan before.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the plan is still good.
Does anybody else have any thoughts or feedback? T, I know you, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to encourage anybody who wasn't at that meeting, you know, ask a question, or, you know, I mean, this is a good time for us to just explain what, you know, where we were at that time and where we hope to be again. Anyway, so I just don't want to cut off discussion if people need to ask any queries.
And T, you had some responses from gardeners. I don't know.
Yeah, yes, let me pull those up real quick.
And so while he's doing that, he also reminded us that when we surveyed all the gardeners a couple years ago now, a fee increase was something that most people said that's a-okay.
Yeah, it's in one of the minutes.
It's in the January minute.
January minutes, yeah.
So here is who made statements. Randy Martin was against any increase of fees. Glenn Ferruia was against an increase of fees. Anik believed that the current system is unfair and fees should be proportioned to the size of the plot. Larger fees, larger plot, larger fees, smaller plot, smaller fees. She does not know what that amount would be, but she did express, and I will suggest this has been said many, many times, is that gardeners who are on fixed income that need some additional assistance should have the ability to have some of that assistance. She went on to mention talking about looking at people's income brackets, and I explained to her that that's not something we would be interested or willing to do. And that was really it. One other gardener, Ruth Ann Shanley, did mention that she thought that there should be a 6-month free extension because people couldn't get out to their gardens during the COVID all the time. And those were the only 4 who responded. We have a lot of gardeners here now: Tim, Ishara, Jan, yeah. Margaret, Brianna, who are not on the board. And any of you all want some feedback?
I'm sorry I missed most of the meeting. Someone called from Australia to say hello. I think having different fees for plot size is fantastic, and we should have it, and should go into effect whenever we renew. I think we have a big plot. We should definitely be paying more than someone who has a smaller plot. It's the only really equitable way and fair way to do it. So, did you want to say something?
I agree with what Shara said.
Thank you.
What I think is missing here is when we start talking about cost recovery is that if we had 100 other garden plots, that we wouldn't be talking so much about reduction, all of these other things. So sure, the tier-based would be a great thing, but if we added in 200 garden plots, we probably wouldn't be it'd be too much of a discussion here. And so while I appreciate you all talking about your own, I don't think that this takes us away from, this isn't going to make it all up, right? But I think that it doesn't take us away from the idea of, the need is out there. So, Margaret, anything?
Just that I know that the people that put together the proposal and have talked about it for a while are very thoughtful and have done their due diligence, and I would support them no matter what the decision was, but certainly I'm happy to pay whatever it costs. It's been a wonderful, treat this past year. And certainly I'd like to support anyone who wouldn't be able to afford an increase. And so even if it came out of my own pocket, or if there's something I can do to help with this funding, just let me know. Mm-hmm.
Any other voices?
I'll say something a little funny, I guess. Teague, when we make those future beds by Marine Park, let's make sure they all are the exact same size.
I think that was already the plan. But
we'll get some really exact rules that, we gotta get really precise.
And not 5 by 5.
Okay. So
it sounds like we're ready to reaffirm our former decision. And again, maybe in 2 motions, 1, the tiered increase, and 2, the ideal to find a way to subsidize or a recommendation. I don't know if that has to be a motion, but in any case.
Yeah.
So I'm prepared to make a motion that we reaffirm or that we agree to have the community gardens increase the fees on a tiered basis over the next 3 years. Having the 10 by 10 small plots stay at $100, having the mid-size, and we have those measurements, I think, in the minutes, be at, for the next fiscal year, at 125, and the largest plot at 150. Subsequently, to rise by $25 for the mid and large size plots until the large hits 200.
Yes.
And then to review it after those 3 years.
Okay. I'll second it.
Any discussion? Any more discussion?
Any more discussion about it?
No.
Okay. So, all in favor? Yes, we're all in favor.
Aye.
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 Great. That's fast. That's fast enough. That's great.
So can I ask a couple questions then? They're going to have a number of folks that are going to be concerned about additional funds moving forward. And I know you all agree that helping them out financially would be a solid move. I can't guarantee that there would be a fee waiver program set aside. So I don't know that we can make a decision on that, but I mean, we'll need to prepare to support those individuals that may be on a fixed income come June, should the city not be able to make the appropriate adaptations to allow for that. Okay, I'm just throwing that out there, right? Okay.
So maybe we can agendize for that for the next meeting and come up with a little system, because one could imagine where anonymously to us, but maybe not to you, somebody might submit a, a need for help letter or something, and we could establish parameters, but we can discuss that more at another, I mean, we have time now if you want to discuss it now. I just don't know if we need to think about it more. I'm inclined to set up our own system just in case the city doesn't want to move forward on something. And we could even base some of it on, well, I mean, I want to retain the dignity of anybody who needs to, or want to support the dignity of anybody, who needs a little help, and not box them in or make it embarrassing of any kind. So that would be my biggest concern. And I'm willing to, Talia, we can, if we can do it. Well, I'm like Margaret. I'm happy to pay it out of my own pocket. I'm happy if we can, get a little fund started in our friends thing, but that might be a little trickier. I don't know.
I agree with Chris. I think probably coming up with some kind of system. Either we somehow set money aside or see if we can get a grant for it. So maybe we have just a fund that we put together for people who might need it. And that way they could just talk to Teague. Obviously, I don't think any of us should know who needs help. I think that should be an indirect way.
And then if all else fails, I would have no problem if someone approached me personally, and I would be happy to do it for them. And then it would just be between the two of us, and the committee didn't have to be involved. So I think the only difficult thing would be if somehow we had to officially go into that portal where we pay our fees ourselves and have to somehow do it on behalf of someone else. I can't envision it. So
I'm sorry, Margaret, you're muted. I can't hear anything. I'll see you guys. I'm just kidding.
I have a suggestion to make.
Yeah.
I think we should have a goal of how much money we want to raise through increasing fees. Once we have that amount, then distribute that across the 3 sizes and then take into account who can't pay that increase and then make an additional increase to the other 3 so that we're taking care of those who can't. But I think we have to start with how much money are we trying to raise through these increases?
I don't think it's that kind of a problem. I think that from the city's point of view, it says, my understanding, and T, correct me if I'm way off, they want to systematize as much as they can increase to have, the recovery. And Tim, if you remember when we first discovered the issue of how the fee study affected us years ago, when we were at that meeting, and we saw that we were designated as a fully private experience, and we told the Rexham Park that's not true, and we documented why we weren't. That offset, I think, wanting to increase all at a really high price because we really help the city know. We do a lot of services for the city, et cetera, and we do it for the land. But I don't think it's about they're looking to make $50,000 and we have to raise it. I mean, it's more how do we pay our fair share in a program that has this funny situation.
Yeah, I'm not suggesting that the fees cover all the costs of maintaining the garden. I'm just saying that we should arrive at a fair and equitable contributions from the fees, and then one to the right, because now we're just saying, it sort of feels arbitrary, like let's raise it by X amount without taking into account what X amount will cover, or is it fair, is it reasonable?
Well, go ahead.
Well, I mean, we already decided. I mean, are we going back now?
No, we've already passed. Yeah, we've already passed them.
Yeah.
But we didn't really have it be arbitrary. When we discussed it in February, we started at the $100 that we were already paying. And then we knew we were not going to reduce that. And given that that was already being assessed to a 10 by 10 garden, we were trying to figure, our garden, Randy's and my garden is, golly, I think it's 15 by 15. So that's, it's a, 225 square feet. Might be a little bit more.
Yeah, they're all T-width and all that.
Yeah, so in any case, that's where we started. So it wasn't completely arbitrary. But we didn't want to max out at 500.
Right.
We were trying to,
Yeah.
But it doesn't nearly cover what it costs. Like Teague said, it was based on employees, right? And now that we're not part of Rexham Park, that changes the cost recovery.
I don't think people understand that. You guys might want to explain that.
So the cost recovery was based only off of staff salaries. What it doesn't include any costs for water, nor does it cover any costs for waste disposal. So and many gardens, for example, Ocean View Farms, the way they offset those but try to keep the costs down are by doing fundraisers, writing grants, those types of things. But because we're a city, the city covers the water bill. Most other community gardens that are, every other community garden that's a non-city one has to pay a water bill. And as you all saw, those water numbers were pretty high. If we were to include water bills at each one, I would expect it would increase the month. It would probably more than double everybody's water current garden fees, to be honest with you. But that's not what's out there. So while I know that they said the cost of recovery was at a 8 to 12%, it's probably a little bit lower if you start bringing in those services that are hauling out the recycling and the trash and providing water.
But that's when we start to factor in the resources we're bringing to bear to that work.
Correct.
The food
Correct.
that we're, growing and sharing.
Correct. I mean, I think that the benefit to the community is really right. This isn't about, community gardens are never going to be a one-off, right? They're never going to be a pay but the benefit that it provides to it's like a park, right? It's like the beauty and the nature and just the sereneness that I can't tell you how many people are chomping at the bit to get back down for your breakfast at the gardens. They cannot wait to get in and see you and just to walk through your gardens. That's all they want to do. They just want to walk the paths. And it is a surprising number of people that keep saying, when are we going to be able to get in there? When are we going to be, they don't want to go in and do anything, but they just want to walk through and see what's going on. So, okay, so let me just, you all would support the earlier, basically the same thing that you supported earlier.
We just passed that.
Yeah, I am probably going to suggest a smaller increase, especially the first year, knowing that we are in COVID, but knowing that your support was for a higher increase, simply because there's a lot of people that are really struggling and it's not changing right away. And so I think that while we may want to get to $200, I think that that making it happen a little bit slower might be a more prudent way for us to kind of get it in. It also gives us an opportunity to really look at trying to build some more gardens and some more infrastructure, because ideally we would build a bunch of more gardens. We would set a tiered system. Maybe we don't get all the way up to 200 and we keep the garden permit fees lower. I don't want to cost people out of having a garden in our city.
Well, then let's make a friendly amendment, because we have on record now a different motion. So we'll have to make a friendly amendment to maybe what we could, we just passed a motion that it doesn't say what you said. So
no, but we're just getting your opinion, right? I wasn't
I
sharing
understand that. I understand that. But for our formality, for our Community Garden Advisory Committee to be professional and to make sense, we should at least go on record that we are open to, to a slower, I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I just think, oh my goodness, my mind's not working. Just to have our Robert's Rules of Orders followed better. I just would hate to have our minutes reflect one thing in a motion, and then all of a sudden, something else happened. And so I just think we should put in the minutes that, we're amenable. We can make a different motion that if the need, requires, we can slow that 3-year cycle down. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm suggesting?
Yeah, I do. I understand.
So I guess we would be open to a slower increase.
We could actually be open to an assessment of, do we need to go up to 200 at all? And if it's agreed upon we want to, we could consider to slow down the pace. So maybe we review these increases every year.
I don't know.
Would that help? Would that help, Teague?
I don't think the city is going to be really interested in going back and going through a public process.
I'm not talking about that. I'm trying to reflect your last point. If you want us to slow it down, if you're making that recommendation to us, that's not what our first motion says that we just passed.
I'm not asking you to change it. I'm just stating that that there may be some desire from city staff and consultants to take that increase up to $200, but it may not be that 3 years that you guys want. It may be a little bit longer of a tier of an increase. Okay.
Okay, that's fine. Yeah, if they change it, that's cool.
Right. So
we'll look
so
like
Ocean,
we were right.
So Ocean View Farms has a goal of where they want to get, and they're slowly creeping it up. Right. So you guys approved changing it, adding a 50% increase to the large plots moving forward, and that might be a little bit more than. I'll talk to James and Shannon a little bit more about it tomorrow. I mean, I appreciate your guys' willingness to do that. I just don't know if that's the time frame that we're all looking for. I don't know that we're trying to. I'm not trying. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not trying to rush it up there. I think that the tier-based system is the more important one to me. Getting it all the way up to a 200 is not that important to me, but I do think there needs to be some distinction for the different sizes. It's all.
But the reverse of that is we don't want them doing a big increase overnight either. So I think that kind of protects it from happening too soon.
Yeah. So, but I do agree that the 10 by 10 plots could be the baseline, and we'll keep that there, and then we'll look at a gradual increase up to a maximum of $200 within 3 years. That would be the highest it would go and the quickest it would go. Is that what I would be hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay. Fantastic.
Does anybody have anything else? Any public comment?
I'd like to just perhaps suggest that we get information out about water usage. I've noticed a lot of people have gotten a little crazy with the water again. And I think we need a reminder that water is precious. And Teague, I was wondering if you could perhaps send an email out about watching our water in outtake.
Certainly. I've also requested the water readings from Public Works for the past year so we can add them back into the original report we had.
It was an August reading. Did we not have that in August before?
I don't know.
We have had an August reading. We don't have the most recent one, obviously.
Okay. Yeah, because I think that's a really important document for us to track.
And I think that there was also a request for the social hours to have some type of educational component. And I think that we were possibly going to do some appropriate water use or water use discussion during that time. Is that all right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that's great.
That sounds really good.
Bang it both ways. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Super.
Great. Okay. Anything else?
Nope.
We also had Amanda note that the Civic Spark people are working on the master food plan. So we thought it would be fun to be able to talk with, I think it's Nagano, I can't remember. In any case, and Amanda thought she might that young woman might like to ask us queries about what's our wish list, or how would we see food security and food issues, being supported by the garden. What could that look like in terms of the food master plan?
So are you suggesting that they
come to one of the social hours? Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I'm suggesting that we could either split it, we could have two things. And Tim made a really good point that we not agendize too much formality at that gathering, so that we could just have a storytelling, a sharing. Jan had a really wonderful point about, let's talk about gardening, what's working and not working, or what we're, yeah.
Okay. Anything else? No? Okay, thank you everybody for being here.
Oh my God, we're gonna leave early today.
I have one quick thing. I have been cleaning out some things here where I live, and I came across, many of you may have subscribed to the Southern California Gardener. Lily Singer was the editor of it. and I subscribed to it for years, and I have them in a binder. And how could I make those available if somebody wanted to have those, or read them or see them? I mean, I don't want to just leave them on the table, Park Drive, but they're out there if anybody's interested in them or knowing about them. I thought the other day, oh, I'll just toss these. Well, the next thing I know, I'm reading them. And I like, well, maybe this isn't such a good idea to get rid of them, but I am going to have to get rid of them, and somebody's got to be interested in having them, but I don't know how to go about getting that. Maybe if we ever meet again in person, I could bring them to a social, breakfast.
How many do you have?
I have a few years. I have like 36 of them at least 3 years. I think. You
have one next to you? Hold it up.
Of course not. They're at my office.
Oh.
And I don't think I have them in here. They were in here, but now they're not.
Teague, do you have anyone in your under your purview who would be willing to digitize some of this stuff?
Under my purview. My kids maybe.
Okay.
Right. I mean, they're distance learning. I could give them a job. There is. I was
just questioning. I mean, a lot of organizations are moving towards trying to get some of this stuff digitized. So I just wondered if by chance.
That's a good question. We don't have a lot of people that are actually working within the city limits right now. Most of people who are on desk jobs are working outside.
Okay.
I was going to.
Well, I'll go ahead and see if I can find any old colleagues from the library and sort of see what they're doing about their digitization efforts. Just curious.
Because Margaret, I might be able to help out with that. I have to ask, the Climate Corps is not working in the garden because of the COVID issues. So they might be able to do that. But we're talking about either scanning or, and so we would take the individual newsletters that Jan has. And all right, let me see if I can find a group, because actually they could be reading them while they're scanning.
And they're little booklets. They're not just a couple of pages. And
no, what are they, about half a dozen pages?
Oh, I'd say some of them are like 20 pages long, 25 pages. And they have ads. I mean, you know, places that are gone, places that are still here, places we all shopped, you know, then restaurants. I mean, some recipes. And just, you know, vegetables, fruits. They're fascinating. I hadn't looked at them in years, and they're really wonderful.
Maybe someone would be willing to do one.
Yeah, maybe.
Just to see what it looked like and if it works or not.
Okay.
So offline, Jan, I'm willing to talk with you about, see if I can get, you know, one from you. We could maybe I could go over to Park, or you could leave it in your garden or something. I could pick it up from your garden. We'll talk. And,
absolutely.
And if I can get a kid to digitize it in a pretty way. And then,
Okay, so action items as we leave tonight, then I will redo the spreadsheet that has the board members on there, and we'll identify those that were to end last year. Those seats will be open. Those that were technically scheduled to end this year will be moved. Will have another year on, so they'll technically have a third year on their term. I'll get that out to the group the next few days. We will also finalize the schedule for the regular meetings and send that out. There's some people who haven't here, and we'll make sure that they're confirmed for those next two meetings. And then at the, did we say March meeting? Right? Is that what we said? March? Yep. We'll talk election for the next cycle, which will be taking place in June. And I have two things I just wanted to share. One, you know, we did submit a proposal to get some assistance in creating some community composting programs. Perhaps, you know, running one a little bit better suited at the Park Drive, probably Park Drive South, and out of the Main Street Garden maybe somewhere, and to support Ishihara and the Euclid Garden as well. And for those of you down at Main Street, that Eagle Scout finally finished those message boards.
Oh, cool.
I have them at my office, and we'll schedule a time so that we can all meet down there and kind of look at them and where they'll be placed. I'm just with as much vandalism that has been going on around the nation right now, and especially around Santa Monica, I see a lot of things being tagged really quickly. I'm a little hesitant to put them up right now, simply with the state of the United States and people kind of running around feeling that they can do what they want. So maybe after the inauguration and we get through this next weekend of rain, we can start looking at installation of those. They're really nice, they're heavy. One for the middle and then 2 for outside, and we can determine on where those want to go, but he finally finished and brought them over. So
nice.
Yeah,
that's cool.
That's been a long time coming.
Can we, I know you've thanked him, but maybe the Main Street Gardeners, once we install them, we can thank him. Because that's really nice.
Part of his role as an Eagle Scout is to participate in the installation of them.
Cool.
So I think that once we get them up, that would be a great thing to do.
Awesome.
Great.
Fantastic. Okay. Great, everybody. Thank you for joining us on a Tuesday evening. Good luck tomorrow.
Yep.
Yes.
41.
Good luck tomorrow. You mean we're getting inaugurated too? We're getting sworn in too.
I just hope it goes smooth.
Citizen,
I just hope it goes smooth. I just hope it goes smoothly.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
All right, folks. Bye.
Bye. Thanks everybody for being here.
Bye.